Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's The Last of Us. If you haven't seen The Last of Us, go and check, well, don't check out our reaction review. Go and check it out. Otherwise, we'll spoil it for you. Good morning, everyone. How are we all? It's Friday. It's Friday, which means it's Fuck Off Friday. To try and counterbalance the backlight there. I look like I'm electronic. Faith Goodman, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me pull you up here. I have to turn you off in order to put on our jingle. It's a confusing message we send out on a Friday, because on the one hand we're saying it's Friday, and on the other hand we're saying fuck off Friday, and on the other hand we're saying fuck off fun Friday. As you know, it's the fun police. And so the fun police are the people that we don't like. So let me just find you here. Let me just pop you up. Let me just do this. Let me just do that. Yeah, there we go. And you're back up. Let's say good morning. It's Friday. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Raspberry Mojito Girl, good morning. Alison Ria, Jen Leggs, Angela Locke. Erin Bullimore, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday. Good morning, Lee. How are you? I was editing we've got a treat in the No Name Sunday show this weekend. We have Lee Peart making an old-fashioned, is that what it's called? I kept thinking you were calling me out old-fashioned. It was odd. Anyway, so it was quite fun, Lee. I've kind of jump cut it, and it's very funny. So good morning, everyone. Mart Cooper. Morning, Mart. I've just seen your video title, and I must say I don't agree with Alec Baldwin getting accused of manslaughter. Brandon Lee. Right, yes, we are going to be talking about Alec Baldwin. It's a big story, this, and I think it has far-ranging implications. Mum of girls, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to Mum of girls. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mum of girls. Happy birthday to you. Elliot Gonzalez, good morning. I hope you're well, matey Flip. Minky Moo, Tina Davis, Shoshana, Sarah Witherington, Jemmy Jack. Yes, so as I was saying, in the No Name Sunday show this weekend, we have a new section called Lee's Cocktails. You're just very funny, Lee. I mean, you don't have to, you turn a light switch on and you're funny. So anyway, so that's a treat. We've also got in the Sunday show this weekend, Nadia and Dina, it's weird calling them that, Nadia and Dina shopping again. So lots of treats there, got some funny shit. Nanny Di's doing a book, 2 sensational dishes. Well, I say sensational, they often kind of go wrong and right, don't they? But anyway, that's in the No Name Sunday show. If you're not a member, you can join down below. I think it's $1.99 a month, and you can get that lovely show every Sunday. If you want a bit of company on a Sunday, I am going to get this in my mouth in a minute, but anyway, so there you go. That's on a Sunday. Lee is so funny, isn't he? He's so good. I heard he was on the list that visited Epstein's Island. I hope you're not talking about Lee. I don't think you are. We're talking about Alec Baldwin. Okay, yeah. So look, before we crack on, what other things are happening? Weekly Rushes is landing later. We're very excited. We've got a Spielberg-orientated job later today, which we're looking forward to. Something involving Spielberg's new film. Meeting a few cinematographers too for a new film that we're making, which is kind of, well, it's a sort of unsettling kind of segue into the Alec Baldwin case, because I was thinking about the cinematographers that I'm interviewing and talking to a lot of cinematographers at the moment about a film, and it's a curious thing, this story of the Alec Baldwin shooting. If you follow the movie side of the channel, obviously we've been covering this since, it struck me, God, this happened in 2021. And this is the story of, on a low budget, it has to be said, low budget Western called Rust, on which Alec Baldwin was not only the actor, and I think this is important, but he was also the producer, one of the producers. He was handed a gun on set, and whether accidentally or intentionally, the gun was loaded. It wasn't a cold gun, and the bullet fired out, shot the cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, and tragically she passed away. And so this has been rumbling on for a long time. I mean, there have been all sorts of different stories around this. Obviously, the tragic loss of Helena Hutchins, herself a young, talented cinematographer. She had a husband, she had a child, I believe, I think just the one child. You know, they've lost a mother, they've lost a wife, the industry has lost a talent. And, you know, the photographs went around the world of Alec Baldwin, head in his hands, you know, keeled over. One thing I think gets lost in this story a lot is no one intentionally wanted to shoot anyone. You know, all of this is an horrendous accident. But of course, in any accident like this, you know, where does the burden of responsibility sit? Now, doing any shoot, you know, any film that you mount, you have to take out huge insurance policies. You have to insure both the cast, you have to insure the crew, you have to insure the public, you have to insure any locations that you're working on, or the locations also need their own insurance too. That has to be done. Hazard assessment forms have to be done in triplicate. You have to have done your due diligence, all this kind of stuff. And I think where this becomes tricky for Alec Baldwin is that, of course, he didn't. And I think a lot of people have wanted to conflate his personality. Certainly Donald Trump Jr. does. They want to conflate his personality and the way in which he is sort of saying, I did nothing wrong, with a sort of callous coldness. What's your take on this, guys? What's your take on this? Do you think Alec Baldwin has demonstrated a cold, callous front in this regard? What kind of front should he have been presenting, given that however you look at this was accidental? Now, in the chain of command, thanks Faith Goodman for reminding me, you know, there's, on a film set where there are guns, there's the armourer, who is responsible for all the guns. They're also responsible for the ammunition. You then have a first assistant director or other various members of the set who will be handed the gun, and the gun will then be handed to the actor. And when the gun's handed to the actor, there's a protocol that the actor is told whether the gun is hot or cold, whether it's loaded or not loaded. And Alec Baldwin's, you know, and the union, the Screen Actors Guild, has said you cannot hold an actor responsible if the actor was told there was no bullet in the gun. Mark Cooper, this is why I brought up Brandon Lee. It was a similar sort of situation, but none of this happened when he was murdered accidentally. So Tracy Lynham, why was live ammunition on the set? Precisely, but is that Alec Baldwin? Who is responsible for that? Now, where I think Alec Baldwin, it gets muddied, is the extent to which, due to budgetary constraints, and as the producer, he'll have been responsible for this in part, to what extent was the production cutting corners and not observing health and safety? And then it becomes a sort of institutional manslaughter situation, doesn't it? Where, you know, a workplace, certain safeguards weren't observed, certain protocols weren't observed, etc. So I think there's two ways of looking at Alec Baldwin in this. There's Alec Baldwin, the actor, handed a gun he in no way thought was loaded, and it accidentally shot or fired, or in his handling of it, it fired a bullet. Awful accident, awful bad luck, but not necessarily Alec Baldwin, the actor's fault. And then there was a chain of events that led to a gun being on set. Now, as I understand it, lots of reports leading up to this occasion, apparently there were lots of, allegedly, activities on film set where members of the crew or the first assistant director and the armourer, there would be shooting practice happening sort of offset somewhere. You know, it's a far more fluid and kind of, you know, informal relationship with guns in America. And I think what could have happened here is that even the armourer thought that the gun wasn't loaded, but it was loaded. And it had been loaded after some kind of offset activity, whether they're target practice, whatever it is. You know, this is what I'm hearing. And it's interesting that the first assistant director has pled guilty already to involuntary manslaughter. So that will put an interesting spin on how Alec Baldwin, you know, how Alec Baldwin defends himself. His lawyers have come out strongly saying he will defend himself. And the problem with this is, I think, and again, I'm going to read out your comments, is that by stating or professing his innocence boldly and strongly, I think that's being read as a sort of cold callousness on his behalf. And yet, in a weird way, I can kind of understand why he's needing to say it quite clearly. That's not to say this man, I'd have thought this man will be affected by this for years, but perhaps that's part of the problem with this. Are the optics on it for you guys? Does it look like he's a man who doesn't care? Does he look like a man who's trying to get away with something? Is his demeanor that of someone who actually wants to see some kind of justice? Or, as some people are saying, is this an overzealous local sheriff in New Mexico who wants to basically get someone done for this crime? At the other end of the spectrum, for Helena Hutchins' family, it does seem odd, hubristic demeanor. I like that, good job, Lollipop. That's a good description. At the other end of the spectrum, of course, there's a family that have lost their wife and mother through the use of a firearm, and there's no prosecution. There's no, in a sense, without this, there's no crime. So there's that aspect of wanting some kind of answerability or conclusion or narrative sort of sense made of it, if you know what I mean. So what do we think? What do we think, guys? Amy May, I find it quite sad that he's being charged. I get that the gun was in his hand, but he didn't know it was going to fire. He was handed a prop, essentially. Absolutely. Mark Cooper, exactly. Is it to make an example and they need someone to blame and he wouldn't be the easy target as he shot the gun, mistake or not? Hamdi, it feels like the judge is trying to set a precedent because it is such a highly published tragedy. Aaron Bullimore, he's been charged specifically as the producer of the film. He bears some responsibility for the safety teams he hired, especially since he, by all accounts, cheaped out on the gun safety team. That's my point. Yeah, I was saying that a moment ago, Aaron. I think that is a huge aspect of this, and I think that's where, in many regards, Alec Baldwin is most vulnerable, is when they drill into what corners were cut, what budgets were slimmed down, you know, the ways in which perhaps the armory department or the, you know, the props department was compromised, or, you know, what was working practice around the guns and all that kind of stuff. Ellery Jones, why didn't he check the gun before shooting it? Well, the Screen Actors Guild says that is not an actor's job to do that. The Screen Actors Guild issued this statement: the prosecutor's contention that an actor has a duty to ensure the functional and mechanical operation of a firearm is wrong and uninformed. An actor's job is not to be a firearms or weapons expert. So it's not his job to check. If you're on a film set and you're handed a gun, you're assuming this isn't going to shoot people. So real bullets are cheaper than blanks. Not necessarily, Minky Moo. I think the issue with the real bullets is, I think what is a major issue is why the distinction between having guns that can actually fire versus guns that only fire blanks, if you know what I mean. Clearly there were guns, real guns there. And I think the question, one of the big question marks here for most film sets is there ever a need to have real guns that fire real ammunition on set? Because then this would never happen, would it? If all guns only fire blanks and all guns are, okay, there needs to be a weight, there needs to be a look. There's a lot about this, you know, in terms of props departments, they need to have a heft and all that kind of stuff. But you can certainly make them so they don't fire bullets. And I think one of the problems on this film set is the guns could fire blanks and could fire bullets, and they were being used for both when not being used on set. Did he pull the trigger? Well, this is a curious one, isn't it? This question of did he pull the trigger? Presumably, someone pulled the trigger. Well, presumably a trigger was pulled, unless the gun fired itself. And I think it was curious when Alec Baldwin did the interview where he said, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't read that as him saying literally he didn't pull the trigger. I felt what he was kind of saying was, I didn't pull the trigger as in I didn't point the gun to and pull the trigger. Sarah Withington, I thought the gun went off. Well, yeah, but then there are sort of forensic reports that said the trigger was pulled. Mandy Shangalang, he will be suffering internally and publicly for the rest of his days. I don't feel jail time is adding anything to this tragic accident. Lessons learnt moving forward. I think he potentially faces 18 months in prison if found guilty. Lucy Heaney, he has aged 20 years since this happened. I can't imagine what he's going through, but I do think he and his wife could be more sensitive on social media. Tasteless pics of Halloween days later. Yeah, you see, I think that's a huge part of it. And someone else has said it's been sort of politicized by the whole Donald Trump thing, isn't it? Where's that? It's handy. It's odd that it's become so politicized, e.g. Republicans like Donald Trump Jr. wielding the tragedy against Alec. I know, it's Vicky Waiting, don't understand why there would be a need for live rounds on a film set. Well, as if, it's not sort of murky enough, complex enough. It's quite a complex thing, this. So what do you do when something's quite complex, nuanced? There are lots of different angles on it. Well, if you're Piers Morgan, you just say Alec Baldwin's demonstrating Hollywood arrogance. I mean, I've got no particular attachment to Alec Baldwin. And in fact, if I had anything to say about it, I do think he could have perhaps dug a bit deeper in a public fashion to show sort of, not remorse, because I accept that he hasn't shot anyone, but intentionally, but some sort of, I don't know, a bit more compassion publicly. But anyway, Piers Morgan has come out saying that he demonstrates Hollywood arrogance. What did he say? He said, there was no doubt it was an accident, but Helena Hutchins died, leaving behind a grief-stricken husband and a young child, agree. And the person holding the gun that fired the bullet and killed her was Alec Baldwin. It was him who did that, who fired the bullet into his co-worker's body and snuffed out her life. See, if you're wanting to be sensitive to the family, why use language like, who fired a bullet into his co-worker's body and snuffed out her life? So many double standards here, aren't there, about how people talk about things. On the one hand, it's terrible, but he's quite. It's like when Piers Morgan had what's that, Andrew Potato, on his show, allegedly to kind of challenge him, but actually no, he was trading on Andrew Potato's following, so that he'd get some audience. I mean, come on. Morgan went on to say, since that tragic day, Baldwin has been the epitome of Hollywood arrogance. He's repeatedly spewed indignant denial of responsibility to his millions of followers on social media and in a succession of television interviews. I think what questions do need to be answered by Alec Baldwin and the production is the extent to which the production wasn't following protocol. And that's it. I think the man himself, well, if it's found that he was directly responsible for a working practice that led to this, then that's sort of a kind of corporate manslaughter, isn't it? I think that would be right. And I think it's possible, highly likely, that could be the case. And if the first assistant director has already pled guilty, which I'm reading that he has, then yeah, it could go that way. So that's the Alec Baldwin story. It's kind of everywhere today. Ed Sheeran, Nadia played this last night. We were watching something and she just started playing and I said, who's that? And it was Ed Sheeran. And then we all kind of paused in our tracks and it was an Ed Sheeran song, a tribute, a freestyle sort of rapping tribute to Jamal Edwards. And we were caught, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Ed Sheeran's music. I mean, it's fine, but it's not my cup of tea. But it made us stop in our tracks. And so, as we know, Jamal Edwards died. God, it was in February last year. It's almost a year ago. Wow. He worked with Ed Sheeran. He was kind of instrumental in helping Ed Sheeran, sort of find his feet in the music world and all that kind of stuff. And Ed Sheeran has sung this song expressing his sort of regret and sadness about Jamal Edwards passing away. And some of his lyrics are just incredibly moving. I mean, I think it's on his Instagram account. I think if you go to his Instagram account, that's where Nadia was listening to it. Some of the lyrics are just so moving. I mean, he even touches upon the fact that, the sort of the gutter press would kind of, speculate on whether him and Jamal Edwards were having a relationship. I mean, he names all these things. He talks about all these things. Sheeran, some of the lines from the song include, therapy sessions, digging deep in depression. I got a life full of blessings, but this just breaks my effing heart. People find and stop me in the street and say it's terrible, but they don't know you like I knew you, and they never will. Sheeran expresses also his sadness about Edwards not being able to meet his daughter. He would have loved loving my little girls. If not for them, I'd be done with the world, he sings. So Ed Sheeran talks about his own mental health. And, yeah, I mean, it's just tragically sad. And it's just another reminder, isn't it? How when someone leaves this world and sort of the rat race of life just carries on, it whacked me between the eyes February last year. Really? Was it as long ago as that? February last year? Quite something. Quite something. So yeah, go and check out Ed Sheeran's song. Obviously, we're going to be doing the Friday quiz. Well, a big story that kind of keeps coming up. Has anyone heard about the young girl or the young woman, the sort of mental health blogger who was at a Priory hospital in Stockport? She took her life. I think an inquiry has found that that protocols weren't followed on the ward. She is tragically sad. I mean, she was an incredibly helpful blogger. There's an account I found here by a chap who read her blog about mental health and suicidal thoughts and how her blog stopped him from committing suicide. And this woman, Beth Matthews, who was 26 when she took her life on a psychiatric unit at the Priory, she'd ordered in a substance that essentially, when she consumed it, caused a cardiac arrest, and she died. Well, of course, when you're on a sort of secure unit like that, you should be able to open your post and all that kind of stuff. So protocols weren't observed. But she's the third person to have died, I think, in the same Stockport Hospital, Priory Hospital. But it's just a reminder again. Even those people who appear to be not necessarily on top of, but are sharing about their mental health stories, and are, in a sense, giving the advice of how to manage things. It was curious just reading her blog where she said, she said something. This is the woman who killed herself. Suicide is not the answer. To anyone out there that is struggling, please believe me when I say things can and will get better. Where someone is on one day is not where that person is even 10 minutes later. You know what I mean? It's, the perception of strength and sort of, I don't know, stability, it can be there for minutes. Of course, it can be there for days. But it was just, I don't know why, I just found that quite sort of sobering to read the confidence with which she would say something like that. And yet behind it, an absolute, person who ended up going to such extraordinary lengths to ensure that within a system, a mental hospital, that she could get the means by which, or secure the means by which she could kill herself. It shows you just how complex and how deep depression, mental health issues are. She was interestingly going through a form of therapy called, is it CBT? Is it DBT? Dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a sort of another form of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's often used with borderline personality disorder, but I don't know why, there's just something about knowing, it's the aspect of this, which is a mental health blogger in a safe mental health institute. So she's there anyway, so that in itself is what wasn't working for her. So it's again that thing of, you can dole out the advice, but you can't, it's very hard sometimes to necessarily apply it to yourself. And that comes down to self-worth, self-respect and all that kind of stuff. And then to be able to go to the lengths that she did to be able to secure a substance with which she could kill herself. I mean, the tragic aspect of that is that yes, clearly protocol failed in this mental institute. And yet, if someone wants to do it badly enough, you can't help but feel that that's going to happen. And yet again, every foiled or stopped or prevented suicide attempt is another opportunity to, recover, recuperate, and perhaps, not go back there in a sense. Anyway, so it's just a story that it caught me a bit, that did. Seatbelts, guys. Now, this is the story around Rishi Sunak. We will be Kate Metcalfe will be reviewing Happy Valley on, Sunday night after it's gone out. Police looking into video of Rishi Sunak not wearing seatbelt and moving car. A couple of things about this. Yes, he should have been wearing a seatbelt. Haven't Lancashire Police got more important things to be doing than looking into this? Clearly it was an oversight, but the aspect of this story that perturbs me more than anything else is the extent to which, if you watch Rishi Sunak's piece to camera, if you like, in the back of the car, this man is AI. There's a very funny meme knocking around that Maddie showed us, I think, on Funny Shit, which is he gives a speech, and then at the end of a speech, they don't alter the kind of speed of the footage or anything. They have the sound of, is it Microsoft going down or a computer being turned off or an Apple computer going off? And he just stops and then powers down and then walks off. There is an automaton-like aspect to him. I mean, all I'm saying is his sort of PR team or his media training people, there's something disturbing about the way he addressed the camera car. It wasn't the seatbelt wasn't the bit that was worrying me. It was the roboticism of him. It's like for the first time ever, I began to think that our leader is a stormtrooper clone. Really perturbing. Go and watch it. I'm beginning to wonder. I don't believe in the whole lizard people thing, but I am beginning to wonder whether our leader is in fact an automaton. Joe McKenna, the Conservatives communications team armistice would be awful. Who would let that go out? Clunk, click, every trip, says Tracy Lynham. Seatbelts save lives, lead by example. The law is the law, regardless of who you are, says Helen Prince. Maybe he did it as a distraction, Sarah Witherington. Joe McKenna, why do a video from a car? What was that supposed to convey? It was supposed to convey busyness. It was supposed to convey getting on with stuff. It was supposed to convey doing things and out there and of the people and in amongst the people, even though he's flying around in jets. And why is he flying around in? And let's just unpack this. Rishi Sunak using RAF jets to get up and down the country. Why? Because the rail system is shit. Elliot Gonzalez, he's a bit too restrained and cautious on how he comes across, needs to be more personable. Entirely agree. He needs to press the personality button. So that's Rishi. Wrong happiness goals. Let's quickly do this and then we'll do quiz of the week. We've been talking about this all week and it's kind of a weird one. This is a piece in Time magazine. It's January. Everyone's looking for what makes us happy. And this piece, which I quite like, is about the 6 surprising things you think are making you happy, but are in fact doing quite the opposite, okay? He's just like one of the aliens from V, Fiona Grocco. Do you remember that V? God, it's so exciting. 6 surprising things you think are making you happy, but are actually not. They're not making you happy. Pursuing fun, Friday fun. Resolutely pursuing fun. This is one of mine, it's not one of theirs. You think would make you happy, but it doesn't, because it's a fool's gold. Okay, so one thing that you think would make you happy is dodging negative emotions. Being happy is a lofty goal, having fun, but squashing negative emotions like anger, fear, and resentment must be a step in the right direction, right? No. We've mistaken the idea that happy, meaningful life means feeling good all the time and avoiding negative emotions. It should be quite the opposite. Evidence suggests that suppressing our negative emotions can be a recipe for making things even worse. A problem shared is a problem halved. I hate it when people say that, don't you? In a sort of, a problem shared is a problem halved. It's not actually. A problem shared sometimes is just a problem. It's the same problem, but just more people know about it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, dodging your negative emotions isn't necessarily all it's cracked out to be. Sometimes what they're saying is sit in that anger. Work out that anger. I remember someone saying years ago, anger is an emotion. You're allowed to feel angry. If someone wrongs you, you're allowed to feel angry. It's what you do with that anger that matters. I refer to Yoda. Living in a city. Many people talk about how living in a city, if you get bored of London, you're bored of life. Who was it who said that? Was it Samuel Johnson? Someone? But waking up in a city, this piece says, that never sleeps isn't necessarily good for inner peace. Well, I think living in a city for me, I don't know if anyone else finds this, whatever city you live in, is like having a relationship. You have a relationship with the city. Some days it's lovely. You wake up to go, oh, it's nice to be with you. And then a lot of the other time it's like, fucking hell, I hate you. Go away, leave me alone. You're so disappointing. According to one study, people who reside in cities were 21% more likely than those in rural areas to experience anxiety, 39% more likely to have a mood disorder like depression. In another study, those based in areas with lots of road noise were 25% more likely to report depression symptoms. So living in a city ain't all it's cracked up to be. What's another one? Having tons of free time. Researchers have long known that having discretionary time is crucial, but having too much of it can be bad for you. If you have a lot of discretionary time, you're not necessarily happier, and in some cases, you're actually less happy. How you spend your time is most important. Think consciously about what you're doing with it. You don't always have to be productive. You can also just be. Chasing success, whether it be in work, in love, in parenting, chasing success or chasing perfection, striving for perfection isn't all it's cracked up to be. Ask Jacinda Ardern. You know, stop when you need to stop. Anonymity, this is a curious one. It's natural to want to blend in some of the time, to keep your heads down and avert eye contact, but the pursuit of anonymity isn't doing us any favors. We need to be more connected. We need to be, see, I struggle with this, antisocial. Well, not antisocial, but, you know, social anxiety. I get, you know, I don't know about that. I like to be around, see, maybe that's why the city works for me. Is this the case with anyone else? I like to be around lots of people, but I don't want to be talking to them. I like knowing they're around. I quite like the anonymity thing, actually. In fact, that's shit. I don't agree with that one at all. Buying fancy things. You think, oh, I'll have that nice car. That'll buy me happiness, you know. Not necessarily, not necessarily. So have a check. When you're pursuing happiness, think to yourself, is this really going to make me happy? Or is actually the thing that I'm pursuing for happiness the thing that's making me really sad? Whew. Should we get on with the quiz? For any of you who don't like quizzes, I would jump off now because we are about to go down the Friday quiz. And Friday quiz time means it's time to do this. Oh, it's the Friday quiz. And on the Friday quiz, we are going to just go Friday quizzy. Quiz. Get your pens and papers ready. I want to see 7 out of 7 today, guys. And if not, you're going to be sitting at the back of the class. Okay? 7 out of 7. Let's do this.
If you would...
Okay, so let's go for quiz of the week. Question 1. Absolute pleasure, HW. Have a lovely day and see you over the weekend at some point. Apple Chief Executive Tim Cook will take home a mere $49 million this year after requesting a pay cut of 40%. But which element of his pay package was trimmed back? Was it A, his basic salary, B, his bonus, or C, his share award? Which of those did he cut back to make a 40% cut in his payment? He'll take home only $49 million rather than nearly $100 million. But what part of his salary did he trim back? Basic salary, bonus, or share award? A, B, or C? Mrs. Sadie C says C. Helen Price says B. Prince says B. Karen, we'll tell you what I'm going to do here. Let me just do this because then I can have you on both screens. Just bear with me. Keep your answers coming in, guys. I'm just going to do this. And then I can have you there and I can have this here. Lots of you saying, what are you all saying? Lots of you saying B, B, B. Lots of you saying B, bonus. It's actually C, his share options. So share award, his share award. Next question. There were tributes this week to Italian actress Gina Lollobrigida, who died at 95 after a varied career on and off screen. Which of the following was among her achievements? A, being elected to the European Parliament. B, creating a sculpture to represent her country overseas. Or C, winning the Miss Italy pageant. Which of those did the actress Gina Lollobrigida, who died age 95, also achieve off screen? Oh, Sarah Fox, you fell at the first hurdle. Margaret O'Brien, winning the Miss Italy pageant. Tracy Lynham, sculpture. Faith Goodman, sculpture. Fifi Cromack, Miss Italy. Miss Sadie C, Jackie Roswell, Fiona Grocker being elected to the European Parliament. Oh, you're split everywhere with this one. No resoundingly confident, which is interesting because it's a tricky one. Angela Locke, what are you saying? A, being elected to European Parliament. All three, says Mary Freeman. That's a good answer. They all sound feasible, don't they? Creating a sculpture. B was the correct answer to question 2. Question 3, 2 climate activists spent the weekend in tunnels in the abandoned German village of Lützerath to protest against the site's redevelopment as an open-cast coal mine. But by what names were these 2 climate activists in Germany known? Was it A, Minnie and Mickey, B, is it A, Minnie and Mickey, B, Pinky and Brain, or C, Tom and Jerry? What were the names of 2 climate activists who were protesting in Germany this week? Was it A, Minnie and Mickey, B, Pinky and Brain, or C, Tom and Jerry? I think everyone's going to fall at this hurdle. I would have said Tom and Jerry. Deborah Holdsworth says Pinky and Brain. Lots of you saying Tom Jerry. Faith Goodman saying Tom Jerry. Jane O'Neill, Tom and Jerry. Minky Moo saying Pinky and Brain. A few of you saying Gillian Barras, Good Ship Lollipop. Tom. It's Pinky and Brain. It's Pinky and Brain. I'd have said Tom and Jerry. Question 4. Irish actor Colin Farrell was among several celebrities to miss the Critics' Choice Awards after getting COVID only days after the Golden Globes. But which of the following actors did make it along to collect an award? So which of these actors did go to the Critics' Choice Awards? Was it A, Jeff Bridges, B, Jamie Lee Curtis, or C, Brendan Gleeson? Which of those actors did make it to collect an award at the Critics' Choice Awards? Basically, which of those actors didn't contract COVID at the Golden Globes? One right, Ellery Jones. Normal, I haven't got any right. Hazel my bon. Margaret O'Brien. A, Jeff Bridges. Sarah Witherington, Jamie Lee Curtis, Faith Goodman, Brendan Gleeson. Lots of you going between Jamie Lee Curtis and Brendan Gleeson. B, C, B, C, B, C. The answer is in fact, Gillian Barras is right. It's Jeff Bridges. It's Jeff Bridges. Question 5. Healthy living advice made headlines this week, but which of the following was recommended for Canadian government backing? Was it A, a ban on birthday cakes in the workplace, B, drinking no more than 2 beers a week, or C, 6 minutes of intense exercise every day? Which of those was recommended for the Canadian government to support? Was it A, a ban on birthday cakes in the workplace? I think remember we talked about that earlier this week. B, drinking more than 2 beers, no more than 2 beers, or C, 6 minutes of intense exercise. Lots of you are going for A, the ban on birthday cake. I think you're conflating a British story with a Canadian one there, guys. Lots of you saying A. Angela Thompson saying C, 6 minutes of intense exercise. Faith Goodman, B's, she says. Are you saying drinking no more than 2 beers? Faith Goodman is saying, but Faith Goodman, Sarah Fox, and Minky Moo and Jenny J are all right. Drinking no more than 2 beers a week. Of course, the ban on birthday cakes was a recommendation in this country. Question 6. This caused a lot of heated debate. New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced she would step down next month, saying she no longer had enough in the tank to lead. But which of these is true of her 6 years in office? Which of these statements is true? A, she became the first leader to have a baby in office. B, she was elected as the youngest female leader in the world. Or C, she was the first woman to lead New Zealand. Is it A, she became the first leader to have a baby in office? B, she was elected as the youngest female leader in the world, and C, she was the first woman to lead New Zealand. Emma Staples says she's crap at this. Don't worry. We all start crap, and some of us, we stay crap. But it's the taking part that matters. You're split all over the place here. Jane O'Neill, Helen Price saying first leader to have a baby. Christine Bett, Julie Neary saying she was elected as the youngest female leader. Julie Everts, and Faith Goodman kind of leaning on first woman to lead New Zealand. The answer is B. She was elected as the youngest female leader in the world. Question 7. Renowned lyricist Nick Cave described a song written using artificial intelligence in the style of Nick Cave as a grotesque mockery. Yeah, I bet that would be a bit insulting if you write lyrics. But can you pick out which of these lines was written by the chatbot rather than Nick Cave himself? So which of these three lines of lyrics was written by AI rather than Nick Cave? Was it A, I walk the streets with my head held high, I've got my demons, but I'll make them fly? Or is it B, I will be your slave, I will peel you grapes up on your pedestal with your ivory and apes? Or C, your face has fallen sad now, for you know the time is nigh when I must remove your wings and you must try to fly. Which one of those was written by AI? I tell you what, guys, if anyone gets more than 3, then you deserve an Oscar. Hazel Malbon is saying the first one, A. Helen Prince is saying A. Minky Moo, Happy Bernie, Jane O'Neill, Matthew Godwin, Julie Neary, hi Matthew, hope you're well, are all saying C. Oh, weird lines, says Faith Goodman, but you're guessing C too? Jill Dye, you got 4 so far, that's bloody brilliant. Bloody brilliant. It's A. And if you look at them, it's the least imaginative. So I walk the streets with my head held high, I've got my demons, but I'll make them fly. That was written by AI. Not bad though, not bad. So now even the job of a lyricist is over. So guys, there you go. That was our Friday quiz. That was fun, was it not? And as we head off into the hinter regions of the weekend, what have we got coming up for you on the channel? We have got the Curly Cooks tomorrow morning. More madness in the kitchen. We think we may have found a technical resolution to the judder, so that should be good. The No Name Sunday show will be landing on Sunday. A new home time vlog will be landing, if not tonight, then tomorrow, though it might be tonight. And obviously the weekly rushes will be landing at some point too. Movies of the weekend, what's coming out? Babylon is out this weekend, so that's well worth it. Margot Robbie taking lots of cocaine and sort of hedonistic Hollywood, so sounds fun. Guys, have a lovely day. Stay safe and just remember, just remember this. Fuck off Friday. And you should be okay.